Yes, hello, my beautiful friends. It is an amazing Labor Day. I hope your day and your week are both off to an amazing start. We've got some business to attend to. I know that it's a little bit of a lighter day out there. Some people enjoying the time off, but there have been documents flying all over the place, and I'm excited to share with you what we've got cooking today. We have some consequential stuff and some big stuff. We're going to talk today about, let me give you a little bit of a preview on what's coming up. We're going to be looking at what's going on with Judge Chutkan's January 6th case in the D.C. Circuit. You can see a joint status report just dropped from Jack Smith and from Trump's team. So they both got together and assembled this filing that went into Judge Chutkan on the January 6th case. But the issue with this is that Jack Smith kind of didn't do his homework, which makes sense because he's not even a real prosecutor. But he was supposed to come up with a little bit of a schedule here on how we could get this thing back on track. Judge Chutkan said, tell me what the calendar looks like. And he didn't do that. The only person that did it was Donald Trump. So Trump's defense came out and they put out this schedule. And you can see here, they want to go all the way into fall 2025. So we'll go through it. We'll see what's inside. It's fun. But in my opinion, what we're seeing here is Jack Smith and his January 6th case is crumbling. It's failing right in front of our very eyes. He knows it. Everyone knows it. And we're going to talk about it, go through the filing right here, because he's leaving it up to the judge's discretion. So we'll go through that. We'll see what it says. Then we've got some other news. We've got the Judiciary Committee. You see this is Jim Jordan, and the chairman on the Judiciary Committee is now sending a letter over to Merrick Garland. He's saying that there has been election interference afoot, which has been going on for, I don't know, since Trump left the White House, since Trump came down the escalator, really, if you want to talk about election interference. They've been making up cases and prosecuting Trump. And now the Judiciary Committee from Congress wants to know from Jack Smith why he brought in a new indictment. Right? Why is he re-indicting Trump with a superseding indictment right months before an election starts? So we'll talk about it. We'll see what Jim Jordan said. And then we also have a clip of Jim Jordan and some reaction from Trump himself about this political weaponization, this election interference. And so we've been making this point for a long time, right? We're not going to have to wake up after the election in November and say, I wonder what happened here. Okay, they have been trying to interfere with this election from the very beginning. They've been trying to throw people, including Trump and RFK and many others, off the ballot. Griswold, Benson, they're all in charge. They are the referees in the Secretary of State offices in their various states. So we don't trust them at all to run clean, fair elections. Then we've also got another big update on the Maran case, Judge Juan Maran and Alvin Bragg, because this was a big one. Congress is following up on this too. But we have now Donald Trump's second removal notice. So he's now trying to take this case out of Judge Mercan's possession and take it back up into federal court, where the federal judges aren't as insane as the lower level courts. And they'll actually consider things like immunity in due course and in due process, because seemingly Judge Mercan is not doing that right now. So the sentencing is coming up on this case very, very soon. And Trump is now trying to remove this from the state court into federal court. And we're going to read through this filing. It's a nice one. It's 64 pages. And so, as you can see, my friends, we've got business to attend to today. It's a beautiful Labor Day. Very grateful to see everybody in the house. Oh my goodness. Wendy Donnelly already gifted 10 membos. Amazing. Welcome aboard. New membos. Great to have the newest of membos in the house, and I hope your Labor Day is unfolding so beautifully. You're relaxed. You're enjoying yourself. Before we get into any of the business on the day, it is important, as always, that we get prepared, baby. And one way we can do that is with our friends at the Wellness Company, because we know that there's a surge in new health crises, and we've got critical decisions that need to be made with all these new crises. We've got the COVID spike, looks like it's happening again. We've got the WHO declaring that there's monkeypox now, that's a global health emergency. We've got a bird flu summit that's coming up. And so we know what's happening. We've got more additional pandemics coming. We've got the government telling us that we got to be freaked out about it all. And these are not just coincidences, right? They want to exploit our fear so that they can keep control. And many people were not prepared last time. The last time we had a pandemic, there was 48% of Americans who did not have their emergency supply. We saw medical and pharmaceutical companies were leaving many of us to dry, hanging out to dry. But the Wellness Company has a contagion emergency medication kit. It's got a bunch of good stuff in there like ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, Z-Pak, nebulizers, comes right to your door. That way you can have it, and that way you can be prepared for whatever comes next. So you can get it at the Wellness Company. The link is down in the description below. Check out, use our code Robert, twc.health/Robert. You can get your contagion emergency kit today. And when you go over there, the link is in the description below. Use that promo code Robert. That way you save $30 off and you'll get expedited shipping. And so remember, these kits are only available in the USA and they're limited. So grab yours from our friends at the Wellness Company. All right. And now, without any further ado, let's get into business on the day, because we've got some fun stuff to unpack, starting with the January 6th case and Jack Smith. Jack Smith is struggling in his January 6th case in Washington, D.C. Judge Tanya Chutkan issued an order and said, listen, I want both sides. I want Donald Trump's defense and I want Jack Smith, the prosecutor's office. Remember, Jack Smith's not even a real prosecutor. He was thrown out of court, laughed at by us and Ed Meese and Judge Cannon out of Florida because he's not lawfully appointed. He was not appointed by the president. He was not confirmed by the Senate, but he's still allowed to play this game in Judge Chutkan's courtroom. And so she's still pretending he's a real boy, but he's not a real boy. And so they have now been ordered to assemble this joint status report. But what Jack has done here is failed to do the assignment. He's not even doing his homework. He's a bad student. The judge said, let me know how we can get this trial done quickly before the election. Propose some dates for us. Jack Smith couldn't even do it. It's pathetic. So here's what they have submitted to the judge. You can see this is going to Judge Chutkan, District Court for the District of Columbia. It's a joint status report. It's signed by all the parties here. And you'll notice we've got Molly, highlighter girl, from the Jack Smith's office. And then we've got Todd Blanche, shout out, and John Lauro, shout out, for Donald Trump. It's a joint status report. And so we're going to have a little bit of a conflict here as we go through it. So let's see what they say to Judge Chutkan. They say, all right, Judge, look, you told us, you issued an order scheduling a status conference, and you gave us a homework assignment to file by August 30th, a joint status report that proposes a schedule, right? Give us some dates for a pretrial proceeding moving forward. Now, the parties have met, and here, this is our position. So Trump and the prosecution have gotten together, and this is what we've got. Now, the parties recognize the types of motions and briefing anticipated in pretrial proceedings, but we have differing views on how you, Judge Chutkan, should schedule these matters and how these things should be conducted. So we kind of agree that these things need to happen. We agree there's a step 1 and a step 2 and a step 3, but when those should happen and how those should happen, we got some disagreements. Now, the parties believe that the speedy trial deadline continues to be tolled, meaning stopped, paused, because of at least one pending motion. And so for docket clarity, we asked the court to issue an order excluding time from the date the mandate returned through the deadline the court set for the filing of the motions. Okay, so we have this concept in American law called the right to a speedy trial, meaning the government can't just throw you into the gallows for 50 years and just say, well, we'll get to your trial. We're just a little bit busy right now, like they did to Count of Monte Cristo. So they're not allowed to do that. But remember what happened is when this case went up on appeal to the Supreme Court of the United States, everything got stopped. Everything got stayed, basically. There was no counting of time. And when we calculate speedy trials, we literally count the days. It's like, okay, day 5, day 97, we keep going up and up and up. And if you pass a certain threshold, then you have now violated that person's right, presumptively, to a speedy trial. So they're saying, look, we know, let's just get clarity on what the calculations look like. Both sides, this is very important, keep track of these dates and calendars. So they're just, Judge, we're in agreement on it, but let's just put it on the record so we know. So here's the government's position. So this is Jack Smith. Jack Smith got a homework assignment. Jack, you go out there, you tell us what dates are going to be appropriate to get this trial back on track. And remember that Judge Chutkan was very much working in Jack's favor. She wanted to accelerate all of this. She, as soon as the Supreme Court came back down, she had a bunch of orders ready to go. She's like, boom, filed this, denied this, boom, boom, boom. And like she was typing this stuff. Remember, she wasn't really supposed to be doing any of this work. It was supposed to be paused. And that means like pause, right? If you're playing with a video game with your friend and you say, hey, pause it, I'm going to go to the bathroom. And you come back, like, I remember this, like you're like 12 years old. Come back, your friend's playing the video game again. You're like, what, bro? Like you're capturing all the coins or whatever. Like this is totally rigged. So that's kind of what Judge Chutkan was doing. Okay, she was still playing the game. Well, nobody else was playing the game. And then when the game got unpaused, she's like, well, look what I got. I got all the coins and I got all the treasure. And you're like, well, this is ridiculous. Then she dropped all of that out on everybody. And that was so that Jack Smith could go fast, so that Jack Smith could come back and accelerate this case so that they could get the trial back on track before November. And of course, that's not going to happen now. So let's go through this. So now here's the government's position. The court has indicated that it intends to conduct its determinations related to immunity first and foremost, because that's what the Supreme Court said to do. And Judge Chutkan did this correctly. When Trump and his defense team raised immunity, she said, crap. And she had to pause everything, right? She paused everything, went up to the Court of Appeals, and everything stopped. Now, compare and contrast that versus what Judge Maran did in New York, state level court. He did not pause anything. Trump raised immunity. You can't talk about Michael Cohen and Trump. He was the president at the time. He was the White House counsel at the time. You can't talk about Madeleine Westerhout. She was the Oval Office director, or Hope Hicks, the White House comms person. These are all official positions talking about official business. They talked about Trump's conduct in the Oval Office, about how he called Melania and stuff like that when he was running late because he's a good husband. But all of that is immune. Now, Maran did not pause that case at all, and he done goofed big time, which is why he's trying to unring that bell, because he should have done what Judge Chutkan did, but he didn't because he was racing to get a conviction, and they're trying their best to get it through. But I digress. Now, this is immunity, right? Remember, Judge Chutkan said, we will handle immunity. She paused everything. It's up, and now it's coming back down. So Chutkan wrote in her order with the court saying that there was an order denying without prejudice Trump's motion to dismiss the previous indictment, saying, well, we can, look, I'll consider your motion, Trump, once immunity has been resolved. Okay, so immunity is like number one. That's where we're focused. Now, the government agrees with this approach, says Jack. Both the Supreme Court directed such a process on remand. When they sent back this case, they told you to do this. And because the Supreme Court has stressed the importance of resolving immunity questions at the earliest possible stage in litigation. And so again, we are in the federal DC January 6th case, but look how good this quote is for Trump's New York case. The importance of resolving immunity questions at the earliest possible stage in litigation. That's not what Judge Maran did. Judge Maran said, we'll figure it out after the trial's over. We'll come back to that when it's a big deal. And then we'll figure it out later if it's important. Wrong. He goofed, which leads me to believe that the sentencing is not going to happen in that case, but we'll get there. Now, to that end, the government proposes below a procedure by which Judge Chutkan can schedule briefing and consider our positions about the superseding indictment that the government plans to use at trial to implicate immunity. Now, to the extent the court considers Trump's other planned motions, the government proposes that the briefing schedule for those running parallel with this schedule for the immunity briefing. Now, below, the government provides more details. So what I want to do is pause right now. Now, we're going to go through this immunity determination, and we're going to see that Jack Smith is going to leave a lot of this up to the judge. So here they say, before we jump into another trial thread, and just really zoom in on this and get granular here, the court's decisions on how to manage its docket are firmly within its discretion, writes Jack Smith's team. So this is a punt. She said, give me a schedule, give me a calendar, give me some dates. He's not going to do it. He's going to say, it's your decision, Judge. You'll notice that the rest of this doesn't have a schedule. See this? You know who does have a schedule? Trump right here, defendant's position right here. It says proposed schedule, September 30th, October 25th, November 8th, November 15th. Then we can go maybe to spring, additional proceedings if necessary. We go all the way to 2025. There's Trump's schedule. Hey, Jack, where's your schedule, dude? You're missing it. You just said it's firmly within the court's discretion. That's it. You're going to leave it to Judge Chutkin? Pathetic. Now, to allow the court to undertake the fact-bound analysis that the Supreme Court prescribed, remember that the judges in the Supreme Court, when they talked about immunity, they said there's basically three buckets. There's absolutely immune stuff that are the roles and responsibilities of the president. If the president is articulated in the Constitution and have that power, then you can't take it away from him. You can't prosecute him. I say him, it's him, because the president can't be prosecuted for stuff that was officially his responsibility. Then there's other stuff that you say, I don't know. We don't really know if this is presidential conduct or not. But if it's inside the outer perimeter and it's arguable that it's within the scope of the president's power, it's at least presumptively immune. Then you have the other stuff that is not immune. And that's what we're asking about. So we have to go through a fact-based analysis and look at the indictment and ask ourselves, every fact in that indictment, in that big, long speaking indictment from Jack Smith that he had to redo because it was so bad, he redid it. And I'm going to show you how bad it was, how much they deleted from it. But when you go through that, you're going to see that it was just filled with immune stuff. So now he's got to disambiguate that. He's got to try to separate the spaghetti from the meat sauce. It's very hard to do that once they're already mixed. So he's saying, now the government proposes that it file an opening brief in which it will explain why the immunity that the Supreme Court dictated does not apply to the categories of allegations in the superseding indictment. So Jack's first indictment was bad. It was filled with immune conduct, as we talked about. So then he tried to delete that, right? He's like, oh, I'm going to redo that again. Second draft, he deleted what he thought was the immune conduct or additional unpled categories of evidence. So there's other stuff, like we have other evidence that we haven't put in this document that the government might introduce at trial. And so that raises eyebrows right there. What other categories? Additional unpled categories of evidence. What else? What else is in there that we don't know about? Nothing. The government's, other than the Homeland Security agents or the FBI agents that were undercover, dozens, we had estimated at least 50 from the Proud Boys trial, Homeland Security agents. Maybe they'll tell us about that. I doubt it. Now, the government's proposed brief would provide the defendant and the court with detailed information about the content, form, and the context of Trump's conduct, distinguish his private electioneering activity, right? So running for office is not presidential conduct, from official action, and rebut the presumption of immunity as to any conduct that the court may deem official. So they're saying, look, and the argument is, if you're running for office, campaigning is not part of the office. Let's say, if you're going to take that distinction, I think there's good argument that that's maybe not true. But when we're talking about Trump's conduct, one of the things that is within the presidential duties would be to make sure we've got fair elections, to make sure our elections are not rigged by the CIA, by the FBI, by the social media companies, by Mark Zuckerberg, as they were, by guys like Mark Elias filing lawsuits, by secretaries of states changing the election rules based on COVID. Okay, Trump, as the commander-in-chief, as the chief executive, has an obligation, a sworn duty, to execute the laws to make sure that that is not happening. And that's what he did. So that would be official. So you can distinguish that from campaigning for office. Little different. And Trump was in that category of making sure the elections were not rigged. And obviously we know in hindsight they were. We knew at the time in real-time sight that they were. But now we know in hindsight, now it's even worse. But they're saying that we're going to go through this and we're going to say that anything that Trump says is marginally immune, or if he puts it in that second category of election protection, we're going to show why that's not true. Such a brief would position Trump in his response to oppose the government's position and raise any other immunity claims based on the superseding indictment, as I just did. No, that's not campaigning. You call it campaigning. We call it election protection. After the government's reply, the court can assess the party's arguments on the record and conduct any further proceedings it deems necessary to resolve these immunity issues. Now, Trump also, they say, so Jack Smith here is saying, let's submit briefs. So we'll say why our new indictment is amazing. Trump will say why the new indictment is bad, and then we'll take it from there. And then we'll resolve the immunity issues there. Now, let me show you just how bad the new indictment was and how bad the old indictment was. This is a thread from Roger Parloff. He writes over for Lawfare, and he is no fan of Trump, but he does great work. And he's given us a pretty sobering analysis on what happened with Jack Smith's indictment. Remember, Jack Smith has indicted Trump on the January 6th case twice. He got the original indictment, then he got the superseding indictment, which came back out after the Supreme Court issued their immunity ruling. And what Jack Smith did in indictment number 2, the second draft, is he deleted a ton of stuff. And we were doing a little bit of a compare and contrast between the two documents, but it was so much deleted and changed. It was kind of hard to parse through it on a live stream together. But what Roger has done is given us the change log of what happened. And so he says it's pretty bad for Jack and for their side. It's true. He says, well, the DOJ was involved in this, but there's a lot of stuff that was cut. He says the whole DOJ and the Jeff Clark chunk of the case had to go. All right. Trump, DOJ, any interaction with his Department of Justice, clearly official conduct that a president can do is communicate with his DOJ. So all of that, Jack Smith said, was illegal. It's criminalized. No, that's immune. So he deleted it. All parts of the case, he writes, have been watered down due to the suppression of the, he says, damning conversations that Trump had, right? Damning meaning true, because Trump knew that there was rigging, and there was clear rigging all over the country. DOJ, White House counsel, and White House advisors. Now, he says what this new indictment has done is decimated proof that Trump knew his election falsehoods were lies, right? He says over and over, Trump brought claims of election fraud to the DOJ. The DOJ refuted them because Bill Barr just sat on his big butt. Then Trump spewed the same false claims over and over. Turns out Trump was right about many of those things. So you can see this all got deleted. Trump summoned the incoming acting attorney general to discuss this. He's allowed to do that. During the meeting, the DOJ officially refuted Trump's claims about the State Farm Arena and the activity shown on tape. They said, nope, this was all benign. All that has to be deleted. All this had to be deleted. Trump talked with his acting attorney general, his acting deputy attorney general about the State Farm case and arena and all the things, all deleted. Trump talked about the Michigan vote dump claim with the attorney general, Michigan, of course, corrupt with Jocelyn Benson, who responded that what had occurred in Michigan had been the normal vote counting process. And there's no fraud in Detroit, blah, blah, blah. Right. So Jack Smith put all of that in there. Trump's allowed to talk to his AG. He's allowed to talk to his deputy AG. Each time he talked to the AG, they said, no, your claims are false. There was no election fraud, Trump. Just stop being so conspiracy theorists. You just sit there and just do what Bill Barr tells you to do. Turns out Trump was right about this. But look, Roger reports other smoking guns were also suppressed, right? These are smoking guns, he says. Now, deleted. Jack Smith deleted this in his new indictment, saying on December 23rd, Trump's chief of staff personally observed the verification process and notified that they were conducting themselves in an exemplary fashion and would find fraud if existed. Trump tweeted that Georgia officials and the signature verification process were trying to hide evidence of fraud. He called them terrible people, right? So this, he's saying Trump's chief of staff went down there, said it's amazing. Trump simultaneously said there's terrible people. And obviously they're talking about two different people. Right. He's saying state election officials. Then he's talking about other people, probably like Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger. Right. We're talking about two different people. people who may be in the balloting locations actually doing the work. He's sitting there watching people, doing a great job on that. But then you talk about guys like Raffensperger and others who are part of the great steal. And so another casualty, they say, when Trump talked to Kevin McCarthy, Trump told McCarthy that the crowd at the Capitol was more upset about the election than McCarthy was. Yeah, McCarthy didn't care. Are you kidding? McCarthy didn't care. He's like, oh yeah, I'm going to be a anti-Democrat House Rep Speaker now. The last example, look at all these got deleted. Trump repeatedly refused to approve a message directing the rioters to leave the Capitol, as he was never obligated to do. As urged by his most senior advisors, Trump can't communicate to the feds to leave. Should have been Nancy Pelosi communicating to the feds, or FBI Director Wray. So they say they wanted Trump to issue tweets, but then he said, be peaceful, right? So they were mad about his tweets. He's allowed to make tweets. All that's not criminal at all. All of it got deleted because Jack Smith is corrupt and incompetent. He tried to put it in here, even though he shouldn't have. The defendant released a video on Twitter that he had just taped. In it, he said that the election was stolen. We had an election that was stolen from us. He's right. He says that you're very special and we love you, right in that. He says, go home in peace. They leave all that out. So anyways, Trump, all of that was in the original indictment. And you can see Jack Smith had to delete it all. And Roger Parloff's not very happy about it. Says, unless Trump's attorneys stand silent, they could open the door to a lot of this. But the evidence is so abundant. He's so upset. He says, I can't believe how unjust this SCOTUS ruling is, right? I'm so upset about it. A lot of this got thrown out. The indictment has just gotten shredded. So you can just see. When you do a change log, compare and contrast, as we suspected on the day, anything that's even questionable, that's official Trump conduct is gone. And a lot of it is gone. So that's what Jack Smith is talking about here. He's saying we deleted a ton of bad stuff. Okay, a lot of it's gone. So why don't you take a look at this new indictment? Then we can decide from there whether there are other immunity claims. And since all of it's been deleted, then Trump can come back and say, oh, well, you should have deleted that. You should have deleted that. You should have deleted that. Now, Trump also, they say, intends to file a motion to dismiss the superseding indictment on the basis that the grand jury that returned it was exposed to immunized conduct. So the new indictment needs to go too, because consideration of that motion would require the court in the first instance to make the very determinations described above. So they're saying, remember, Jack Smith said that he presented this evidence to a new grand jury. And so they're saying, well, you also showed them, like if you read the grand jury presentation, if you read the transcripts from the grand jury, they showed the grand jury immune stuff. He should have never done that, because consideration of that motion would require the court in the first instance to make the very determinations described above. The government believes that the court should consider Trump's grand jury claim only after conducting the fact and context specific analysis of whether the superseding indictment contains immunized conduct. So look at what the grand jury created or approved, see if it's in there. And if it's in there, then we'll deal with that as that problem. But don't look at what we presented to the grand jury to say maybe we showed them immunized conduct, but we just didn't include it in the indictment, which is really where the problem is, right? You can't even present the immunized conduct. So Jack Smith is kind of like, well, let's go backwards only if it looks like it's a problem now. Trump is saying, no, we got to go look at it, how it, from the inception, like the seed was poisoned from the very beginning. To do otherwise would be inefficient for this court because it would entail successive rounds of immunity determinations, and it would pose the risk of multiple interlocutory rounds of appellate review. So this is just so good. It's just gold. So Trump's defense team, and we made this point. Remember, the Supreme Court said that you're going to have to, this is going to have to come back down to the district court. We'll have an evidentiary hearing on whether immunity applies or not as to certain facts. And we said at that time that after that evidentiary hearing, that there would be an appeal, right? Trump would appeal it because Judge Chutkan would obviously come out and say, Oh no, Jack, this new indictment's amazing. You deleted everything that's appropriate. And so Trump, you're back on track for trial. Trump will say, no, that's obviously dumb, Judge Chutkan. What you've decided after this evidentiary hearing is also wrong and needs to be appealed. What they're talking about now is this happening at multiple stages. So we're now in the pretrial process, right? The indictment's been filed. We've got pretrial proceedings as we work our way towards a trial. But Trump is saying we're going to appeal it before any of that. Okay, rewind the clock. We're not in the pretrial process having an evidentiary hearing, then doing an appeal. That's too far down the road. We're going to go all the way back to the inception of this puppy. And we're not challenging this halfway through, all the way at the birth. We're going to appeal from the grand jury presentation. It should have never even come out of a grand jury into an indictment. Then, right, appeal that up and comes back down. Okay, well, if that can go to the indictment, then we have the indictment, then we challenge the indictment. So it's multiple bites at this apple, because immunity you can really bring up repeatedly because it immunizes you from the whole process. So they say, Judge, don't do this. Like, if you let us go all the way back to the grand jury, we're going to be here like forever. But the government is prepared to file its opening immunity brief at any time if you say so. So just like, let us tell you why our second draft indictment is much better. They also say Trump plans to file an additional motions to dismiss, I'm sure. The court has indicated that it will conduct its immunity determinations before resolving these other issues. So let's say Trump says, right, Trump wants to file a motion now to dismiss the case because Jack Smith is not a real boy. He's not even presidentially appointed or confirmed by the Senate. Totally illegitimate. So if Trump files that motion, right, she goes, well, I'm not even going to consider that until we talk about immunity. The government notes that it may promote judicial economy and resources for the court to schedule briefing of all other Rule 12 motions concurrent with the immunity litigation. That way, all motions will be fully briefed. The court can later determine when to take them in order. If the court sets a deadline for those other motions, the court requests the court set the same date for Trump's opening briefs for the government's open immunity brief, followed by parallel deadlines. Now, Trump's proposed schedule, as below, Jack Smith didn't even give us one because he's such a lazy, illegitimate prosecutor, also contemplates a separate deadline in motions. The government does not see a reason to delay immunity determinations and other reasons to separately address Trump's motions. And so that's what we have to say, Your Honor. So that's from Jack Smith. And this is so weak. If you're a Democrat and you're like, Jack Smith's going to take out Trump, you got to be reading this just like, this sucks, because this is Jack Smith deferring to the judge. Well, just set the dates whatever you want to set them. Fine with us. Where's the urgency? Where's American democracy's at stake? We're going to lose everything any minute now. We're all going to die if Trump. Just whatever, Judge, whatever you decide. So if Jack is not going to propose a hard deadline, well, Trump will take full license. They say, okay, sure. Well, here's what the defense proposes since Jack won't do it because he's so lazy. All right. How about September 30th? We'll have more disclosures. October 25th this year, we have motion concerning Jack Smith's. Oh, there it is. We're waiting for this one. Here's the motion concerning the special counsel's improper appointment and use of non-appropriated funds that they are just getting ready to file. They're just like, oh, they're so excited for it. I'm so excited for it. I cannot wait. Because Jack Smith lost this one. This was the one that was filed in Judge Cannon's court, and Judge Cannon got rid of Jack Smith, said, you are illegal. Your appointment wasn't proper. And you took a bunch of money, $24 million, I think it was, and counting, to prosecute Trump illegally. Where'd that money come from? Us. It was from a discretionary slush fund that the DOJ set up that Jack Smith stole. So then Trump says, all right, and then also, so we'll file this one on October 25th, and Jack Smith can respond by November 8th. We got some important dates around this time. Then Trump will reply by November 15th after the election. Then on the week of December 2nd, we have a hearing. So schedule the hearing when we'll argue about Jack Smith being deleted from this case. And then December 13th, then we can discuss immunity, right? And so Jack Smith is saying, no, actually, we don't want to do any of this. We'd rather go and have the immunity decision first. So in other words, accelerate, push all of this up in advance of the Jack Smith is illegal, not even a real boy motion. Trump supplement the statutory motion to dismiss based on Fisher. That's the 1512C issue about corruptly and impeding government documents that the Supreme Court backhanded the district court on. Defense counsel motion to compel immunity discovery is due. So Trump may separately identify which aspects of his pending motions should be resolved at this time. And just look, right, the rest of this is well into next year. So January 3rd, 2025, then Jack can respond to the motion to dismiss. Then at the end of January, then Trump can respond. Then at the end of January 2025, we have evidentiary motions hearings. And then Trump's people are saying, we're probably going to have most of this dismissed at that time. So we don't even need to set a trial date. But in the spring into fall 2025, we'll start to schedule additional dates and additional times if necessary, because Jack Smith's illegal and Trump has immunity, as has been obvious from the very beginning. So all of this needs to go bye-bye. So here's what Trump's defense says. Now, the special counsel, here's the rationale for our schedule. Jack Smith, says Trump's team, has returned a superseding indictment that includes substantial changes to its prior allegations, right? They made a bunch of claims. As we saw, they deleted a ton of it out. Trump correspondingly requires time to review the new charging instrument as he determines what steps and procedures to take about his presidential immunity. So they're basically saying, no, this is like not a second draft, okay? It's a whole new indictment. So we should reset a lot of this, like go back to zero, like day one. New game, start over. President Trump holds the right to challenge the new indictment. And the underlying grand jury process is a matter of law. An ordinary order is for those challenges to occur before substantive proceedings, as doing so will promote judicial economy. And we don't need to do a bunch of stuff if the case is going to be dismissed. Now here, Trump is considering several challenges to this, each of which should be resolved in his favor. And if it is in his favor, the case is going to be dismissed. Now, as a threshold matter at the very beginning, Trump is going to move to dismiss Jack Smith's improper appointment and his use of non-appropriated funds, aka stolen. Illegal, not a real boy, and stole millions to prosecute Trump. Issues that a Supreme Court justice describes as serious questions that must be answered before the prosecution can proceed, says Justice Clarence Thomas. And which another district court called Eileen Cannon also found dispositive. These issues are critical. Jack Smith is not a real boy. In addition, while continuing to strongly maintain that many classes of conduct alleged in the indictment are immune, even in the new indictment, they're saying, even that's immune, Jack. Tweets are immune. Public statements about the election are immune. Communication with state officials about a federal election are immune. Allegations about alternate slates of electors. Trump may file a motion to dismiss all this. And we're also going to focus on Vice President Mike Pence, along with other key potential threshold motions. In Trump, the Supreme Court case where they decided on immunity, the Supreme Court held that President Trump is, quote, at least presumptively immune, right? We start with the presumption that you're immune. For all alleged efforts, the Supreme Court said, to pressure Pence to take acts in connections with his role. They said he's at least presumptively immune. Now, those allegations about Mike Pence are foundational to the superseding indictment. If Trump is immune from the Mike Pence stuff, he's immune from everything. Everything fails. If the court determines that it should, that Jack Smith cannot rebut the presumption that Trump is immune for talking to his vice president about official business, binding law requires that the entire indictment be dismissed because the grand jury considered immunized evidence. So he's saying the Supreme Court has told you, Jack, and Jack, man, he's goofing this so bad. Did he not read that part of the Supreme Court opinion? It's at least presumptively immune. and he put it in the new indictment. So presidents cannot be indicted based on conduct for which they're immune from prosecution. And Jack Smith, right, if we go in this new indictment and we find that his inclusion of the conversation with Pence in there was immune, that means the grand jury heard immune stuff because they indicted him. That means everything else has to go. It's like a poison pill, right? It means that some of this got presented to the grand jury, so the entire indictment has to be dismissed. Now, Jack's inability to rebut the presumption as to Mike Pence is dispositive to this case, meaning it will settle the whole thing. He's not going to be able to show that it's illegal for Trump to talk to his vice president about official business. Could Trump talk to Mike Pence about his role at the time if Trump was not on the ballot? Of course. Of course he could have. Yeah, here's what I think. Someone else is running, and so their name is whatever. Ron DeSantis is running. Trump decided I'm not going to run again. Ron DeSantis is running. Democrats cheat their eyes out like they always do. Trump says, "Hey Pence, I need to talk to you about what you're doing in that role because there was fraud and do these things." Obviously immune. Just the fact that Trump is the candidate doesn't mean it means that he also has a parallel interest. That's sure too. But this is not conflict of interest analysis. This is, can he talk to his president as a matter of his vice president as a matter of law? Yeah, he can. That's the whole role of being a vice president. So Jack Smith, they say, will be unable to do this as a matter of law, rendering the remainder of the case moot. Trump's immune on that. Jack Smith included this little provision like an idiot. And now it's going to wreck his whole indictment, which is good for us. Now, he says, they write, from the Supreme Court, we therefore remand to Chutkan with appropriate input from the parties whether a prosecution involving Trump's alleged attempts to influence Pence's oversight of certification in his capacity as president of the Senate would pose any dangers of intrusion on the authority and the functions of the executive branch. So, yeah, if the president cannot do that, and if you criminalize the president, right, they lay it out for us here. Trump talking to the vice president, overseeing the proceeding as his president, he was like all official, right? President with the vice president as his role as president of the Senate. That's the conversation that happens every day between the president and the vice president about their role in their execution of their duties. So further, President Trump may move to dismiss based on the Supreme Court's decision in Fisher, which is the 1512 C2 issue, which narrowed the ambit of obstruction charges. The Supreme Court directed that the court determine in the first instance whether this charge may proceed in light of the decision in Fisher. And so we got to resolve this too. Now, fully considering researching, says Trump's defense, and resolving each of these potential motions will take considerable time and resources. And so we're just basically talking scheduling here. So our proposed calendar accounts for this. It still moves the case forward quickly. It schedules the Jack Smith is not a real boy motion in October, and it would dismiss this case. We don't even need to talk about immunity. Okay. If Jack Smith is illegal, immunity is over. It's just the whole thing's gone. So such a schedule not only promotes judicial economy, but also vitally preserves the separation of powers. We do not want unnecessary litigation about Trump. The Supreme Court even explains the essence of immunity is its possessor's entitlement. The person who has the immunity, the power is they don't have to appear in court. That's what immunity is. It's like a force field. You're not immune if you're sitting there getting lectured by Judge Mercan. This, in large part, is part of the peculiar public opprobrium that attaches to criminal proceedings. Even if you're under investigation for a crime, there is a stigma. It follows, therefore, that the court should take every reasonable step possible to resolve the case on legal grounds before permitting an invasive public inquiry into Trump's conduct. So let's settle the threshold issues before moving forward. Trump's team says, we believe and we expect to demonstrate that this case must end as a matter of law. The facts here are important, but we don't need to unpack all of them. Should the courts determine otherwise, we have fashioned our proposed schedule to facilitate this, right? In other words, like Jack Smith is just illegally appointed by operation of law. So we don't need to go into immunity and Trump's con and all that stuff. As an initial matter, the Supreme Court broke new ground on the scope of immunity, which the special counsel previously maintained did not exist. Jack said there was no immunity, which was so dumb. Obviously, that was incorrect legally. They knew it, but they just had to say it. Now, as a result, with respect to unclassified and classified discovery, there are serious threshold questions about Brady and about the government's obligation to disclose information that might tend to exculpate or show someone's innocence. It cannot be assumed that any case file review by Jack at the outset of this case addressed their disclosure obligations based on intervening precedent. And therefore, there are outstanding disputes on this. Okay. They're saying that Trump was demanding a bunch of discovery and saying, well, I need this because it relates to immunity. And I think it relates to our claims of immunity. Jack Smith said, no, you don't even have immunity. What are you, nuts? You don't have immunity. So we're not going to give you the stuff that's related to your claims of immunity. And they're saying, well, obviously there's immunity. We were right. They were wrong. Supreme Court said there's immunity. So now we want that discovery that they said we couldn't have. So we have now proposed a deadline of September 30th for them to make supplemental productions about the immunity stuff that we already asked for. This will provide everyone sufficient time. They can find the documents and give them to us. We've also set a control date on December 13th to file motions to compel. If they don't give us this immunity-related discovery, we're going to ask that they be compelled to do it. Such issues must be resolved before we can even prepare our motions. We're talking about immunity here. Now, to ensure that Trump has the full universe of all the potentially relevant documents, the court must permit him the opportunity to serve new immunity-focused discovery requests. This is so great. Jack Smith and his team, they must just be furious, okay? What's happening here is the defense is becoming the prosecutor, which is just so great. It's so fun. So, well, sounds like, Jack, you were hiding a bunch of stuff from us. We told you we needed immunity material, and you said you don't have immunity, but we do. And so how about we just start peppering you? And we're going to serve you new discovery requests, and we're going to seek relief from the court if Jack Smith, who's not even a real boy, denies access to these documents. If he doesn't give it to us, we're coming right back to you, Judge. Hopefully, you can help us resolve these disputes, but the reality remains that immunity discovery must be requested, and we might even have to litigate over it because they didn't give it to us when we demanded it. And this is going to take some time. So good. So for similar reasons, if this case is not dismissed as it should be, this court must resolve Trump's motion now for an order regarding the scope of the prosecution team, which Judge Chutkan denied previously, which will affect the sources of documents that Jack Smith will be required to search for. Remember Jack Smith, he says that our prosecution team is like small. It's like me, Molly, Jay Bratt, handful of other dorks from the DOJ, TDS demented, freakazoids. That's it. Trump's people say, no, it's not. That's not the whole team. You have Homeland Security that was there on January 6th. You got FBI up the wazoo all over the place. You had the CIA who was involved, communicating. They wanted everybody. Secret Service was deleting their text messages, everything from everybody. You're all part of the team. And you were getting documents from everybody there, Jack. So they say, well, now we definitely need it because there are immunity concerns. So the need to resolve these issues is incompatible with the evidentiary submissions that Jack wants. Jack wants us to submit all of these motions and give you a briefing, Your Honor. How can we possibly give you a briefing when we don't even know what the scope of the evidence is? In the universe of Jack's case, we have to go learn about what they have that implicates these immunity issues before we can prepare our brief, obviously. So moreover, President Trump has had no opportunity to cross-examine Jack's witnesses or to call witnesses of his own, leaving the evidentiary record incomplete and incapable of supporting fact-based submissions. And so thus, immediately proceeding to fact-based submissions like Jack wants would violate the directive to do an objective analysis of the content, the form, and the context of each act, every single specific act, to determine if that act is official or unofficial. Now, proceeding to an evidentiary submission in this posture, just saying, well, you have enough. You know enough about immunity. We're just going to have a hearing. You don't need to research anything. They say that's ridiculous. That would violate the Sixth Amendment principle, including the right to present defense witnesses, to cross-examine the government witnesses, and more. Now, finally, Trump's defense wraps up, says that Jack Smith asserts that it should file an opening evidentiary brief, but it cites no authority or no rule to support that. Jack has drafted and filed its superseding indictment as it saw fit. It's now President Trump's right to challenge that indictment through appropriate motions and argument. Now, Jack Smith has no right to presumptively challenge submissions President Trump may make. To the extent that Jack suggests that informing Trump of its position on certain immunity issues in advance may be beneficial, Trump sees the rationale for that in principle. However, such information may be provided by the letter and should not take the form of affirmative briefings or filings. Okay. Now, Trump's proposed calendar addresses the threshold matters, and if the case is not dismissed as it should be, facilitates the exchange of this critical, essential discovery over these next several months. Now, at the same time, the schedule promotes judicial economy, avoids undue burdens on the separation of powers, gives the unprecedented nature of this case, given it, this course is entirely reasonable. And so the court should adopt Trump's schedule and reject Jack Smith's proposal, which wasn't even much of a proposal. He just said, that's your discretion, Judge. You can just do whatever you want. But allow us to just submit some filings. As you can see, Trump's is a lot more thorough and aggressive. And I think, right, Jack Smith is in hot water. They're scrambling because as you saw, what Trump is doing is he's reopening a bunch of the old stuff that's already been closed. Oh, well, part of the reason you denied us that is because you said that there was no immunity. Oh, but there is at least arguable amounts of immunity in those issues. So we got to reopen those and revisit those. And we cannot move this case forward, Your Honor. Well, there's still pending discovery out there. I mean, you wouldn't expect us to come and play a game when we don't have all of the materials we need in order to do that, would you? Of course, we'll see what Judge Chutkan says in response to this. But this was a joint motion making its way to Judge Chutkan's desk. I don't think she's going to be happy with this. She wanted to take this thing and put it right back on track so that we could have a trial maybe before the election. That's not going to happen now. And so we'll be here waiting for Judge Chutkan to issue a ruling, and we'll, of course, bring that update back. So thank you, my friends, for subscribing to our channel wherever you're watching this. We're going to have many more updates on this January 6th case, and I think there'll be spillovers into the New York case as this immunity decision takes hold. Thank you for subscribing, my friends, and we'll see you back here on the next one. Now, we're not done yet. We are going to continue on. We've got a bunch more stuff to talk about, but where do we want to go now? That's right. Let's talk about Jack Smith. Election interference is what Jim Jordan, representative on the Judiciary Committee, says Jack Smith is doing. You can see he just dropped this one from the House of Representatives over to the Honorable Merrick Garland. And let's take a look at this. Jack Smith has obviously been enabled by Merrick Garland to be a fake prosecutor, as Judge Cannon alluded to. Somebody who was illegally appointed, not confirmed by the Senate, stole over $20 million of funds from a DOJ slush fund, now is re-indicting Trump in the middle of an election season after raiding his house, getting warrants to invade his residential property, take photos of Melania's bedroom, and ransack Barron's bedroom. So now Jim Jordan sent this one out. He says, all right, this is from Jim Jordan, chairman of the Judiciary, over to Merrick Garland. He says, look, hey, Garland, listen up. On July 1st, the Supreme Court of the United States issued an opinion talking about presidential immunity and rebuking Jack Smith for violating this constitutional principle in his prosecution of President Trump. On August 27th, Jack Smith then obtained a superseding second draft I goofed the first time indictment against Trump to try to fix the constitutional defects inherent in his initial indictment. Now, in doing so, Jack Smith appears to have violated long-standing department policy intended to protect our democratic processes. The committee must therefore understand whether you, Merrick, approved Counsel Smith's new indictment in advance and whether Jack Smith continues to exercise prosecutorial authority without your meaningful direction or supervision. And so, again, zooming in, we're focusing on this issue of oversight. And Jack Smith not being a real boy, Judge Cannon issued that ruling based on the fact that we don't really know what he is. Is he an officer? Is he in a government in an official position that's been created by law? Is he outside of the DOJ, like a special independent counsel? Does he work for Merrick Garland, so he's an inferior officer? What is he? No one really knows. That's kind of part of the problem. And they're cobbling this together, these statutes together, to make up this position out of thin air. And then they gave him some fake money that he stole. It was real money that he stole under false pretenses. But in doing so, now we have a question. Okay, so he re-indicted Trump. Merrick, did you order that, or did he do that on his own? Are you supervising him, or is he a free agent? Across administrations of both parties, the DOJ has attempted to safeguard the sanctity of the electoral process by adhering to a 60-day rule, under which federal prosecutors avoid the return of indictments against a candidate for office within 60 days of a primary or a general. Now, although not formally codified, there's wide acceptance that there's a 60-day rule. It's critical to protecting the integrity of the electoral process, says Jordan. Notably, some senior department officials have extended the prohibition beyond 60 days. Former Deputy AG General Sally Yates told the DOJ Office of Inspector General, "To me, if it were 90 days, and you think it has a significant chance of impacting an election, unless there's a reason you need to take that action now, you don't do it." And Loretta Lynch for Obama affirmed the same thing. Said, in general, the practice has been not to take actions that might have an impact on an election, unless it's Donald Trump. Now, Jack Smith obtained this new superseding indictment against Trump just 10 days before early voting began in some states. There can be little question that the superseding indictment has some effect on the election, especially coming after the Supreme Court's decision on immunity cast doubt on Jack Smith's original indictment. So now he's trying to do it again. Now, in light of this court's opinion, Smith's new indictment amounts to the initiation of a prosecutorial action by Biden and Harris in an upcoming election against an opponent. There is no persuasive argument why Jack Smith could not wait until after the election to file the superseding indictment. It's therefore, and he would say, well, I had to. The judge was giving me orders and telling me to provide a status report, give me a calendar, give me a schedule. So he's saying, I had to do this in order to move the case forward, in other words, but we know the whole thing is political. It's not just this new indictment that's political, the whole thing. It is therefore difficult to believe that the superseding indictment was filed now for any other purpose other than to affect the outcome of the election. And Jack Smith could also agree to Trump's request for postponements, right? Only one side has been urgently trying to get this thing done before the election. That's Chutkan and Jack. Now, Jack Smith's superseding indictment presents two stark conclusions. One, that as Jack Smith's supervisor, you, Merrick Garland, approved the indictment, knowingly violating the policy to not prosecute people within 60 days. Or number two, that Jack Smith acted without your approval. So which is it? Reinforcing Judge Cannon's observation that Mr. Smith is a private citizen exercising the full power of a U.S. attorney with very little oversight or supervision. So either he works for you or he's a free agent. Which is it? In other words, either you are personally weaponizing the DOJ against Trump, or Jack Smith is continuing his unconstitutional prosecution against Trump. But either option does not reflect well on you or your commitment to the rule of law in the United States. And I have a sneeze coming on. I'm fighting it. I think we got it. Now, the unprecedented nature of Jack Smith's superseding indictment demands prompt attention from the committee. Accordingly, to further the committee's oversight of the department, we require the following documents from you, Merrick. All documents between the main Justice Department, including but not limited to your office and Jack's office, about the superseding indictment against Trump. Also, hey, Merrick, did you personally approve this superseding indictment filed against Trump? And if so, please send us the documentation showing us your approval. And also, Merrick, did you evaluate the superseding indictment against Trump in the context of the department's long-standing policy against doing this? If so, give us some of those documents as well. Now, please give us all these materials by mid-September. as you know, we are Congress. We have a bunch of power to do a bunch of stuff. And so give us those materials. Thank you for your prompt attention to this matter. Sincerely, your friend, Jim Jordan. Over to Merrick Garland talking about election interference, something that's obviously been happening for years now. Now, Donald Trump was out hanging with Mark Levin talking about this. Our friend Kenekoa the Great on X shared this with us. And here's part of the conversation that Trump has with Mark about all of these various prosecutions happening all across the country.
Who filed one too. Now that said,
And great lawyers. And if that's
Great
true
lawyers.
there, it's true in Washington, D.C. also. He's not allowed to do it.
well, that's, I assume, where the motions your
Yeah,
lawyer will
it's
file. Now that said, this isn't intended to get a result before the election.
Right.
This is intended to smear you and to keep smearing you and to keep wasting your money and your campaign money and to keep using American taxpayer dollars. You know, Mr. President, the President of the United States or the wannabe President of the United States have the power to tell the Attorney General to knock it off. You made the point that you did not want Hillary Clinton indicted. If she'd been indicted, you probably would have said, knock it off. The President is the executive branch, not the Attorney General. And yet they go ahead and do this in the middle, not even in the middle of election. Pennsylvania, they start voting in a couple of weeks and so forth and so on. I mean, this election interference never ends, does it?
Well, this is the worst case of election interference that anyone's ever seen, certainly in our country. They do this in third world countries. They have some of it in South America. They don't do it a lot, believe it or not, but they do it. They do it in banana republics. But now this is the United States. When it came to Hillary, you remember, they subpoenaed her and stuff, and she bleached it. That's where it's basically acid, everything. Broke the phones, broke the computer, broke everything. I mean, it was so terrible. And I had to make a decision. Do I want to do this? Do I want to put the wife of the President of the United States and Secretary of State, by the way, do I want to put her in prison? And I'm trying to unify a country that really was broken badly. If you look at, what was going on with Obama when I took this over, this country had tremendous hatred, anxiety, a lot of hatred. And do I want to put the wife of a president of the United States in prison? I didn't want to do that. And then when I get out, it's like, it's amazing, actually. It's amazing. And it's such a bad precedent because people are going to think about it differently. They're going to think about it differently. And it's very sad, actually. But you know the good news? It's so crazy that my poll numbers go up. Whoever heard you get indicted for interfering with a presidential election where you have every right to do it, you get indicted and your poll numbers go up. When people get indicted, your poll numbers go down. But it's just such nonsense. They got to the DA, they put people in the DA's office, they put people in the Attorney General of New York's office. Fani Willis in Atlanta met with them and her boyfriend met with them for days. This was all coming out of the Department of Justice in order to get their political opponent, me. Think of it. Fani Willis came up with this crazy scheme. And a lot of people were hurt by it too. Very good people, patriots, because there was many people who were indicted. But they did this to try and get me. And then they say to people, listen, we'll let you off if you say bad things about Trump. If you say bad things about Trump, we're going to let you off. This was all done by the Department of Justice.
Madeline Westerhout was brought in. Sorry about that. How long was that going off? Oh my gosh. Sorry about that. Thanks, guys. So we're just continuing on. 5 minutes, 15 minutes. Oh my gosh. The whole time? 3 minutes? All right, so let's back up. So let's back up at the start of this one. Is this a good one? 5 minutes? Oh my gosh. The interview was still up when it was muted. You heard nothing after the Trump video? Oh gosh. All right. Well, let's start over right now. Let's start this segment over. All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for the heads up. Thanks for screaming at me in the chat. Oh gosh, what a doof. What a doofus. Okay, so nothing after Trump. Okay, so we'll do this one over again. My apologies. Let's do this one over again. It's good. I wanted to do it over anyways. I didn't like this. I didn't like how I started this segment. You didn't miss anything. It was terrible. Okay, what I talked about, it was all crap. I was mumbling over myself. I sounded like Joe Biden. It was just terrible. So it was. You were not happy with that segment anyways. You would have been really upset about it. Just trust me, it was terrible. Worst segment I ever did. All right. So we're going to do it way better the second time. All right. All right. Thanks. Perfect. Yeah. Okay. Better be really good this time. All right. Good. All right. What was I going to say now? Got to reconvene myself. Yes. President Trump is seeking to remove his case from Judge Maran right as sentencing comes around the corner. You can see this was filed in the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York. This is Trump's second attempt to take this case away from Alvin Bragg's prosecution in the state level court. Right now, we know that Judge Maran, who is presiding over this trial, has a very interesting conflict of interest because his daughter, Lauren Maran, worked for Kamala Harris, and that organization called Authentic Campaigns raised a bunch of money off of the Trump prosecutions. And so Trump now is trying to take this away from them because they're not honoring the law. First of all, they're not honoring their conflict, but they're also not honoring immunity. And so Trump submitted this. You can see it is now the second removal notice, and a lot has happened since that first removal notice. We'll fast forward through the table of contents, and we'll take a look at how this starts, and you can see there's some good stuff inside. President Trump, they write, respectfully submits this second removal notice. Why? Because the zombie case should have been dismissed a long time ago. The Manhattan Attorney's Office violated President Trump's immunity and the immunity doctrine during their grand jury proceedings and again during the first term in office, saying the Supreme Court recently ruled that these types of violations threaten the structure of the federal government and the ability of future presidents to carry out their vital duties in the way the framers intended. Bragg's flawed case is also preempted because the indictment was on the improper use of state law to try to retroactively police another 2016 election through non-unanimous jury findings. They say the Supremacy Clause violations also come from Bragg's overreach, are illustrated by the fact that neither are federal prosecutors nor the FEC ever prosecuted Trump in the first place. So in other words, Bragg is acting like a federal prosecutor. He's prosecuting federal issues at a state level. So they say this all has to go. The Supremacy Clause is not the only provision of the Constitution that Alvin Bragg is ignoring in his purely political New York prosecution. The ongoing proceedings will continue to cause direct and irreparable harm to Trump, the leading candidate in 2024, and voters way beyond Manhattan. The harm includes First Amendment violations, as Justice Maran has maintained a post-trial gag order that restricts Trump from engaging in political advocacy based on valid criticisms of New York. And an entirely unjust sentencing is currently scheduled to occur on September 18th. That could result in Trump's immediate and unconstitutional incarceration and prevent him from continuing his groundbreaking campaign. So you guys need to step in to stop this from happening right now. Since this court remanded the proceedings in connection with Trump's first removal, so Trump already tried to take this up to federal court, and they already sent it down. They say a lot has happened. This is why we're back. 3 intervening Supreme Court decisions added force to his federal defenses based on immunity and preemption. In an opinion that became final less than 30 days ago, the Supreme Court came out and said that Trump does have immunity from criminal prosecution for official acts. And relevant here, that prosecutors may not use official acts evidence in connection with the prosecution that they claim arises from unofficial conduct. So if they say Trump did something bad, okay, then prosecute him on the bad things. You don't also get to prosecute him on the immune things, or use immune things in the prosecution of the bad things. In Trump versus Anderson, another case, the Supreme Court warned that states' power over governance does not extend to federal candidates. The Supreme Court also overruled Chevron, which required deference to agency interpretations and implored the courts to rely on their core interpretive competencies when interpreting statutes. Don't default to the agency decision. Anderson and Raimondo abrogated prior decisions that deferred to the FEC's restrictive interpretation of preemption, which applies broadly to any provision of state law with respect to the FEC. And so therefore that voids the New York laws that Bragg applied to 2016 to try to manufacture non-existent crimes. So Chevron also comes into play. Now, in addition to those binding precedents, removal to federal court is also necessary because Alvin Bragg created a trial record that is inconsistent with what they made in their representations to this court. Okay, so they tried to remove the case before the trial. Bragg said, no, your honors, don't take this case from state court to federal court. Here's what I'm going to do at the lower level courts. This is why it's appropriate. They say, well, we watched what you did, and what you did didn't match what you said you were going to do. They say, for example, at a June 27th hearing, Bragg told this court that there could be no argument by President Trump that anybody involved in their baseless allegations was doing anything in carrying out their job as a government actor. That's not true at all. At trial, Bragg violated that representation and the presidential immunity doctrine by offering literal evidence of Trump's official acts. So Bragg went to the federal court and said, you are not going to hear anything about immunity at all. Nothing about anybody being a government actor in any way. No official business coming out. Turns out at trial, they literally introduced official business. So for the purposes of removal, the court must credit, and Bragg cannot dispute, that Trump's defense theory that prosecutors relied on official acts evidence at trial and in grand jury proceedings. We now know they're literally using official acts evidence everywhere. Bragg's official acts evidence included, for example, stuff we bring up all the time, testimony from the White House comms director. That's Hope Hicks. She testified literally at trial about confidential conversations she had with President Trump in the Oval Office. Official. Bragg relied on testimony from another aide called Madeleine Westerhout, whose desk was located immediately next to the Oval Office, about her observations of Trump and his practices as president, and how he handled sensitive matters, and how he handled national security issues, including on the phones, right? Talking about the phones. Bragg also offered evidence of Trump's official public statements via Twitter and official financial disclosures that he made as president pursuant to the requirement of a federal agency housed in the executive branch he was running at the time. And lastly, Bragg star witness and serial perjurer Michael Cohen testified about Trump's official response to federal investigations he oversaw. He also included testimony about a conversation between Jeff Sessions, AG, and Trump's pardon power. Bragg relied on all of this to present to a grand jury and violated presidential immunity. Now, as to preemption, that the federal courts preempt Bragg's case, Bragg told this court with the first removal, the first time we were here, that the charges don't relate to federal law. He's like, no, they don't relate to federal law at all. So it's a state issue. But the trial revealed, however, that's not true. Bragg's theory turned on whether there had been violations of the FECA about campaign contributions. Bragg requested, and the judge even gave them, watered down instructions about these complex concepts that required the jurors to moonlight as FEC commissioners. All right, and they wouldn't even allow them to bring in the FEC expert. to come in and talk about any of this. Despite having told this court that use of a special verdict form could mitigate the preemption problems President Trump identified, Bragg opposed Trump's request at trial for special interrogatories that would have required jurors to make unanimous findings related to those issues. They just muddied it up. Now, as to that request, Judge Maran once again followed Bragg's lead, did not require unanimity. And remember, we spent a lot of time saying it was a choose your adventure type of prosecution, right? Choose your story or pick a card, any card. You can pick the elements of the offense you want. Just get enough of them. Go out there, just capture enough of the elements, and that's good enough. They didn't even have to be unanimous as to those elements. Judge Maran also refused to allow Trump to assist the jurors in applying, there it is, the FECA law by precluding expert testimony who was going to come in and explain this. Instead, they violated the Supremacy Clause. They said this wasn't about federal laws, but it was. Justice Maran asked the jurors to consider on their own, among other things, whether those payments were made for the purpose of influencing an election. That is exactly what FECA preempts. That is why this should be in federal court. They say post-trial removal. Yeah, the trial's over, but you still need to take this case so that Trump can have an unbiased forum free from local hostilities where he can redress these constitutional violations. This is not an infringement on state sovereignty. This contemplates enforcement of a state law in federal court pursuant to federal procedures and subject to federal defenses. Trump's post-trial motion is currently pending. It's a motion to dismiss this entire indictment. Why? Because Judge Maran is facing conflicts of interests and appearances of impropriety. He's already forecast his intention to deny the motion and direct the parties to prepare for sentencing in a couple weeks. Now, this month, President Trump renewed prior requests for Judge Maran's recusal. Why? His daughter indicated that the judge had been critical of Trump's Twitter use. I can't believe he posts on there or something like that. To her, she talked about it on a podcast. The problem with Justice Maran's earlier statements is they confirm his bias. They confirm his hostility towards Trump's 2018 tweets, which were a core issue in the trial. But Judge Maran denied the recusal motion without even addressing that issue. He claimed incorrectly that there was nothing new about the recusal motion, despite the fact that the motion connected evidence of a specific form of judicial bias to Trump's immunity arguments. Now, during the same period in 2019, the judge's daughter worked for the presidential campaign of Kamala Harris in 2019. She's now President Trump's main opponent. Justice Maran's daughter took a senior executive position and partial ownership of Authentic Campaigns, which is a top campaign vendor with clients like Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, and other opponents and adversaries of Trump like Shifty Schiff censured. In 2020, Maran also made improper contributions to Democrat interests. The judge donated to Biden for president and to Stop Republicans, which violated New York ethical rules, but they didn't care about it. Under the leadership of Maran's daughter, Authentic has given services to clients, and they've actually solicited political contributions based on developments in the proceedings. They say Trump got arraigned in New York. Trump got indicted in New York. Send us some money to save America. Since Bragg charged Trump in 2023, Authentic has received tens of millions of dollars from those solicitations. Now, faced with these facts, backed by public FEC filings and social media posts, Justice Maran has characterized the conflicts and the appearances of impropriety as just speculative. Oh, you're just making stuff up. Those are just based on rumors. Making matters worse, Maran has insisted on maintaining a gag order on Trump that is unconstitutional, prevents Trump from even addressing these issues. Kamala can attack him. Tim Walz can attack him. Hochul can attack him, but he can't respond. Maran continues to violate Trump's First Amendment rights, despite the fact that Trump would only be commenting on issues he's already raised in public court filings. And even though extrajudicial statements by Trump could not possibly impact the integrity of the remaining proceedings here, there are no jurors or witnesses at all, the continued operation of this unlawful prior restraint is causing irreparable First Amendment harm to Trump and to us, the American people, because he can't talk about it to us. And it operates as a wholly inappropriate muzzle on the leading candidate in the election while he is on the campaign trail and during any debate with Harris. The first debate is currently scheduled, and he can't even talk about it. Justice Maran has indicated he plans to decide Trump's presidential immunity motion on September 16th, and then 2 days later, incarcerate him, despite his documented bias relating to one of the forms of official acts evidence, and he's going to potentially sentence Trump just 2 days later on the 18th, which will be streaming all day on that. So thank you for subscribing. Now, at that potential sentencing, President Trump faces the prospect of immediate and unlawful incarceration under New York law, which could prevent him from continuing to pursue his leading campaign for presidency. Nor does Maran in his current schedule allow Trump adequate time for an appeal. All right, so if Trump goes in on the 16th, they say, you have no immunity in this trial. There's not enough time before he has to come back on the 18th for the higher level court to step in. Maran has not ruled on Trump's request to adjourn sentencing until after the election either, so that election interference appeals can be avoided. Now, finally, the timing and the content of this second removal notice are supported by good cause. In the alternative, Trump should be permitted to amend the first removal notice if you don't want to accept this. The groundbreaking presidential immunity issues arising from Trump versus United States on immunity are alone a sufficient basis to grant this, but also Chevron are too. Now, as noted, additional removal litigation is warranted because here at the New York County trial this year, Bragg relied on evidence and legal theories that were materially different from the representations and arguments he told you last year. He lied to you. The record of those proceedings reveals the type of political bias, the conflict of interest, the appearances of impropriety that have animated the need for federal removal for centuries. New York procedures have proven so inadequate to protect federal interests, and allowing the New York County proceedings to continue unabated will result in further irreparable harm to President Trump, to the American people, and the presidency. And so these ongoing harms must be stopped. The pending election cannot be redone. The currently unaddressed harm to the presidency resulting from this improper prosecution will adversely impact the operations of the federal government for generations. And so accordingly, President Trump respectfully requests that the court accept this second removal notice, confirm that Maran may not sentence President Trump during litigation over this second removal notice because sentencing would result in a prohibited judgment of conviction under U.S. Code, and order the case removed, notify Maran of the removal, and set a motion schedule so that President Trump can seek dismissal of this case and a vacatur of the New York County jury's unsupported verdicts submitted by President Trump's defense team. And you can see they go into a lot of details here. That is the summary of this. You see in conclusion, they tell us that for the foregoing reasons, Trump respectfully requests the court promptly order this case removed, confirm Judge Maran may not sentence Trump during this period, and once the case is removed, set a schedule so that Trump can seek a dismissal of this case in this court. Signed by Todd Blanche, Emil Bove, defense attorneys for President Trump. So this is a little bit of a scramble. We're in the last minute final stages of this process. Trump recognizes that he's got a real risk here. On the 16th, the judge can come out, deny his immunity. He'll appeal immediately. We have the 17th day. Then we come back for sentencing. As we know, if on sentencing day, the judge sentences him to incarceration, he goes into custody that day. And there's a bunch of articles, it's hard to tell what's true or not, about them preparing for that, right? Them creating jail cells, and everybody's trying to figure out what they're going to do if that ultimately happens. Now, I'm still skeptical about that. I have a feeling that that's going to be a little bit too much for them to bite off here. And I think the judge is going to look for some sort of an excuse to kick the can down the road. Maran may not want to have it seem as though he made a decision to kick it down the road, but if the federal government comes in, if the federal courts come in and remove this, he'll be relieved. Oof, thank gosh. So he doesn't have to make a decision on this and potentially incarcerate Trump, because as much as they want to stop and eliminate Trump, I don't know that incarcerating Trump serves their purposes. I think it would just exacerbate. And honestly, I think it would make real a lot of the concerns that Trump has been talking about, right? Trump has been saying he's been being politically prosecuted for years now. A lot of people scoff at that. Even Nicole Shanahan was scoffing at that. They try to incarcerate him for this Michael Cohen case. Every single point that he's made will be vindicated. And I think that there will be a very serious movement to reverse what they've done there. And we'll, of course, be hopeful that they don't go that far, but we'll be here covering it to see. Now, here was Jim Jordan. He was asked about this. Jim Jordan has also been peering into what Maran and the courts in New York have been doing against Trump. He sent a letter to the judge and I believe to other individuals about the judge's daughter and some of the conflicts of interest that exist there. Here is Jim Jordan.
Well, we sent him 2 letters. We got no response really, other than they said, "Oh, we don't really have any information." And the information we do have that response to your request, we don't think you're entitled to that, which is garbage. So we sent him a subpoena last week. We'll see what they do. I hope they will send us the information. There are 9 million reasons why we need this, why we think it's appropriate we have this information, because that's what this company run by Judge Merchan's daughter got paid from Harris and Biden's campaign back in 2019, 2020. And we want to know what's been going on in 23 and 24. So that's why we sent the letter. We've seen the behavior of Judge Merchan. For goodness sake, he put a gag order on President Trump. It still exists there. He wouldn't let the expert on campaign finance testify at the trial. And the sentencing is coming up here in just a few weeks. So we want this information. We've sent a subpoena. We'll see if they give it to us.
When you say you're not entitled to the information, Congressman, that means they have information in conversations between whether it's Judge Merchan or the Democrat Party in regard to this conviction of Donald Trump. Because if nothing was there, they're like, listen, we'll give you what we have, Congressman, and we have nothing. Here it is. But when they don't do that, that's the problem. I want to quickly turn, we don't have a whole lot of time, but I want to turn to the southern border.
That's a good point from him. And the political prosecutions will continue on. And if you missed this earlier because of your boy's technical incompetence, here was President Trump also talking about this onslaught and this process with Mark Levin.
Well, this is the worst case of election interference that anyone's ever seen, certainly in our country. They do this in third world countries. They have some of it in South America. They don't do it a lot, believe it or not, but they do it. They do it in banana republics. But now this is the United States. When it came to Hillary, you remember, they subpoenaed her and stuff, and she bleached it. That's where it's basically acid, everything. Broke the phones, broke the computer, broke everything. I mean, it was so terrible. And I had to make a decision. Do I want to do this? Do I want to put the wife of the President of the United States and Secretary of State, by the way, do I want to put her in prison? And I'm trying to unify a country that really was broken badly. If you look at, what was going on with Obama when I took this over, this country had tremendous hatred, anxiety, a lot of hatred. And do I want to put the wife of a president of the United States in prison? I didn't want to do that. And then when I get out, it's like, it's amazing, actually. It's amazing.
Floodgates open.
And it's such a bad precedent because people are going to think about it differently. They're going to think about it differently, and it's very sad, actually. But you know the good news? It's so crazy that my poll numbers go up. Whoever heard you get indicted for interfering with a presidential election where you have every right to do it, you get indicted and your poll numbers go up. When people get indicted, your poll numbers go down. But it's such nonsense. They got to the DA, they put people in the DA's office, they put people in the Attorney General of New York's office. Fani Willis in Atlanta met with them and her boyfriend, met with them for days. This was all coming out of the Department of Justice in order to get their political opponent, me. Think of it. Fani Willis came up with this crazy scheme. And a lot of people were hurt by it too. Very good people, patriots, because there was many people who were indicted. But they did this to try and get me. And then they say to people, listen, we'll let you off if you say bad things about Trump. If you say bad things about Trump, we're going to let you off. This was all done by the Department of Justice.
All right, so that is the president. And he's right. There has been a nonstop onslaught of criminal prosecutions, lawfare. Trump's been the victim of it by far the most. But it's not just Trump. It's happening everywhere. RFK Jr. has seen it. Shanahan has commented on it. Jill Stein's talking about it. The Democrats are cheaters and bullies. They'll do whatever they can to contain power, maintain power, throw everybody else out, including President Trump, if that means shattering 234 years of historical precedent of not prosecuting your political opponents. So what? To the wind. Democrats will do what Democrats do. All right, my friends, it's been a beautiful heck of a stream. We covered some good stuff today. If you're just joining us and you want to hit the rewind button, we covered some January 6 updates. There was a joint status report that got submitted by both sides, Trump's defense and Jack Smith, now updating Judge Chutkan. And I think Jack Smith's case is floundering. We saw how much stuff he deleted out of his original indictment. Now he's got a new second draft indictment that isn't any better, and they seem nervous. And we're excited that Trump's people have proposed a schedule. The schedule will take this case way beyond 2024. We'll be here, of course, continuing to cover that case. We've also got the Judiciary, Jim Jordan, in Congress looking into election interference that's being promoted by Jack Smith. Jack Smith, not even a real prosecutor, a real boy, now is re-indicting Trump within 60 days of early voting. Does that interfere with DOJ policy? Well, if it was Joe Biden, it certainly would. They didn't prosecute Hunter. They, in fact, were warning Hunter's lawyers about raids on his storage facilities and things like that. So we covered all of that. We got some nice clips from Trump, and we have a second removal notice from Trump as he's trying to take the case away from Judge Maran prior to sentencing, which is happening on September 18th. That week is going to be very busy. And so if the federal court removes the case, it's out of Judge Maran's hands, and it's very likely that that date moves. We'll see if that happens. We'll be here covering all of these stories and more, my friends. Thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you for inviting someone you know or love who might enjoy some of what we're covering here. Thanks for inviting them over to check out our channel. And now, of course, let's hear from you. Let's see what you have to say about this. I see some amazing donos in the house. My apologies on the mute button. I think I was coughing or something, and I pressed the mute button, and then I didn't unmute it again. But you didn't miss anything, okay? It was terrible. That first take was just terrible. So we're glad that's over. Let's say hello to some friends in the house. My friends, thank you for these amazing donos and these super chats. I see we have Ann Baker is in the house. What's up, Ann Baker? Just became a new YouTube membo. Thank you, Ann Baker, for becoming a membo. We got Wendy Donnelly's in the house. What's up, Wendy Donnelly? Thank you for becoming a membo and bringing in 10 new membos. We're very grateful for our 10 new membos. We also want to say what's up to Will Lins. Will Lins. What's up, Will Lins? 10 months as a membo. Thanks for being here 10 months as a membo, Will Lins. And saying thank you to all that gift memberships. Thank you, Will. William Lins in the house. We got Clowns in Hollow Weird. Just became a new YouTube membo. What's up, Clowns in Hollow Weird? Over on Locals too. Good to see you. We got Wheezy Bob. Says, I'm a full baby now. You are, Wheezy Bob. Membo for 9 months. That's full term in the house, baby. Thanks for being aboard. Wheezy Bob. I'm a baby now. Thanks for all you do, Robert. Thank you, Wheezy Bob. Thanks for being here for 9 months. We've seen some serious stuff this term, no doubt. What's up, Peng One? Peng One in the house. What's up? 15 months as a membo. That's amazing, Peng One. And do I follow you on X, I feel like? Anyways, what's up? Peng One is in the house. 15 months as a membo, coming up to 2 full babies. What's up? Tony Hay Munkets is bringing in 10 new membos. Welcome aboard, 10 new membos from Tony Hay Munkets. Great to have you friends aboard. Glad to have everybody joining us. We got Kyle Cowden. Says Jack Smith should see an opportunity. He can claim whistleblower status and spill the tea. He'd be set for life until Hillary unalived him. Yeah, Jack Smith shows up on Dan Bongino's show or something like that. You're like, all right, listen, I got to tell you everything. That would be great. That would be great. Or hangs out with Tucker Carlson. What's up? Tony Hay Munkets, 5 more membos in the house. Thank you, Tony Hay, for bringing in all these new membos. I see you got 5 on that one. And we had even more membos coming in the house. What's up? Even more membos. Hey, Tony Hay, 5 more membos from Tony Hay Munkets. Awesome. Thank you, Tony Hay. Welcome aboard. 5 new membos brought in courtesy of Tony Hay. We got Object Class Keeter says, what would have happened to the DC court if the Federal 11th Circuit Court of Appeals upholds canon or doesn't even hear it before the DC court hears the motion. Well, I think there'll be they're kind of independent units. So Chutkan is not going to have to worry about that too much. So the 11th Circuit, like let's say the 11th Circuit affirms canon. Okay, case is dismissed there. Chutkan denies the dismissal, says Jack Smith is real enough. The DC Circuit affirms that decision. So then who's appealing? Now Trump's going to appeal that one in DC to the Supreme Court because you have a circuit split. But it could also go opposite, right? They could both agree that Jack Smith is a real boy. Great question. Just kind of depends. But they're separate circuits. So they're not bound by decisions in the other circuits. What's up? Richard Jack says, how about them Canes? And I think that's a football team, but I'm not real sure. What's up, Richard Jack? See, did they win? Congratulations. What's up? Rob White is in the house. Says Garland better answer. JS is independent and he commits perjury. Garland better answer. Jack Smith is independent or he commits perjury. What's up? Shri says, you're muted, Rob. Thank you, Shri, for being a member for 8 months. And for... Okay, here we go. Here's Curtis Bartle. 26 months, Curtis. Sorry to waste everybody's monthly anniversary with the no sound warnings. Thank you for that, Curtis Bartle. 26 months as a membo. And you blow it on no sound, Rob. But thank you for that. I appreciate it. What's up, Jennifer? Muted. I finally caught it. You guys helped me out. I saw the chat going like a million miles a minute. And I was like, what's going on over there? Oh, that's weird. Oh, it's muted. How long has that been going on? Thanks for that, Matt. Appreciate it, brother. 2 months as a membo. Emil, 5 membos gifted. Thank you, Emil, for bringing in 5 new membos. 5 membos. You know who you are. Brought in courtesy of Emil. And Sheila Poo is bringing in 10 membos. Bunch of new membos came in courtesy of Sheila Poo. A million hugs to you. We love you, Sheila. Hey, what's up, Darren McNeil? 12 months, 1 year anniversary. What's up, Darren? Thanks for hanging out with us for full 12 months. It's been a heck of a year. Here's to many more. We got this one from Tony Hay Munkets. 5 more membos coming in. You guys are rocking. We got some serious new membos brought into the house. Thank you, Tony Hay. And Sheila is making a big welcome, saying, welcome to all the new membos. Pay it forward, winning if you can. If you can't, then support the channel by sharing with like-minded friends and family. Love you all. Sheila, thank you for saying that. Yeah, it really, one of the reason why I'm always asking people to share it is because it's really how we reach new people. YouTube doesn't promote us a whole lot outside of our bubble a bit. So thank you for doing that. And for reminding people, we really appreciate the shares. And hopefully we get some people who are energized, right? Maybe help drag them to the polls a little bit since they know what's happening. We're rebuilding America, baby. Thank you, Sheila. What's up, Sheila? 5 new membos. Thank you, Sheila P., for bringing them in and for the words of encouragement. And Billy Rice in the house says, Tony Hay rocks. 3 months as a membo from Billy Rice in the house. Rice, baby. Dun, 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 dun. All right, what's up, Bruce? Thanks for that one. My friends, thanks for all of those amazing donos. Thanks for sending those in. It's a lovely Labor Day. Hopefully you're enjoying the holiday and the time off and some of the fresh out of the oven business that we attended to. And hey, we had some other locals comments. Let's say what's up on locals. Oh gosh, I know. You guys are the best. Thank you for warning me. I feel like such a doofus today. But it happens. You know what happens. What can you say? Glocky says, if Trump wins, they will say the election was stolen. If Trump loses, he will say the election was stolen. But they will make this story disappear. Either way, America isn't a serious country, especially considering they found the Ukrainian national anthem embedded in the voting software. This political story is off the charts insane. And looks like it's a hacking story from Politico. Hacking blind spot. States struggle to vet coders of election software. Wild. So they're going to say the Russians did it again. Hey, what's up? We got Glocky. What's up? NY says, perhaps Smith is silent in his schedule because he cannot violate the DOJ policy on election interference. ELZ says, Rob, can SCOTUS hold someone like Judge Mercan in contempt? It's a good question. I mean, I don't know that they have. I would say, yeah, like it's the Supreme Court, so they can say he's in contempt. I don't know what it'll do, But yeah, it's the Supreme Court. I don't know that it has any legal binding since it's kind of the federal Supreme Court. I think it does. I think it binds. What's up, Knox Bierman? Happy Monday, y'all, and happy belated birthday to Crash to Contrary. Happy birthday, Crash. Happy birthday. Virgo in the house? I think so. Cliff Norman says, Rob broke this open. Trump took an oath to enforce the laws. If he had probable cause to believe the election suffered from fraud, he is immune. Rub some dirt on it. Says, no sound, Rob. ELZ says, no audio since the Trump clip. Sweet Potato says, you're muted. Odessia says, no sound. Says, turn it up. The Hook says, you're muted, Rob. Thank you, guys. Honestly, like, thank you for all those. They caught my attention. Like, what's going on over here? And then I realized it. So thank you for sending those in. And for, I don't know, for warning me of my incompetency. What's up? Former says, since I am 80, how old is the oldest member? Am I old or just a kid? Is anybody older than 80 in the house? What's up? Former is in the lead at 80. V is never silent says, Penguin guy is a White House reporter, and he does walk and talk and bike tours of DC all the time. Pretty cool. I love walk and talks and bike and talks. Neuro says, hey, Rob, thinking of Chesterton's fence, I think we know why we need Rumble now. It's a great pressure relief valve that we are missing today. It's a good comment. Yeah, I'm very glad we have Rumble, which is not working today for us. Rub some dirt on it, Rob. Listening while not watching is way better than watching with no sound. Looking back, though, the reaction from the chat, know how important your words are. Well, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's also just really annoying when the live streamer doesn't know how to operate the platform. What's up, Milo? But thank you for the nice words, Rub. We got Milo says, Kamala has a new way to not talk to the press. She just has wired earbuds in. She's wearing earbuds? You got to be kidding me. Using headphones? You got to be kidding me. That's amazing. Angel, how can Jack re-indict him on some of the same charges when the judge dismissed the case? Isn't that kind of like double jeopardy? Kind of, but it's just a superseding indictment. So there was no conviction. He's not being tried again after already having been convicted. So it's just like a second draft. Superseding indictments are not uncommon, actually. Milo Phone Bill says Jack Smith rewriting it, though, because he's constitutionally inept. That is unusual. We'll see what Chuckin does. Milo Phone Bill says, my Membo baby is here. 9 months today. Newest Membo in the house, March 2024. Newest Membo. For Milo Phone Bill, happy 9 months, baby. We got a new baby. It's great to see you. We love our newest babies. What's up, Milo? Great to see you. We've got this one from Joe G. Says, great job, Rob, breaking this mess into simpler language. Thanks for doing this. Thanks, Joe G. These were some good filings. I was happy with these filings, and I was excited to share them with you today. Oh, we're going to have some fun Monday. What's up? P says, do court judges have a spelled out immunity for their position like the president does, or do judges take an oath to support and defend the Constitution? Well, they take a judicial oath, but yeah, I'm sure it's different than what the president swears. What's up, Pop Scott? Asking about mind maps. We're not doing the mind maps anymore. Currently, we're working on something different that I think might be a little bit more accessible. I think the big reason, a couple people have asked about the mind maps. Most people have not, but some people, we're working on a different format. The mind maps are very inaccessible to a lot of people. I think it's a little too much. So we just haven't been populating those. Sadie says, well, thank you for this. Hope we can have a redo, as after Levin, you muted and we lost you. We did it. We hit it. We hit it over again. Sadie, thank you for that. Says you're cute. Good comeback. Thanks. Well, I wanted to spare you guys the pain and suffering and of a bad intro. You don't want my first take. First take's always a little rough. NY says, Rob, not sure on your setup for traveling, but I'm so productive with 3 monitors at home. Amazon now has a cheap 17-inch and 18-inch portable monitors you can just plug into any laptop. They're very low power, lightweight, about $100. Search for 18-inch portable USB-C monitor on Amazon. So I have one kind of like this one. This one is not cheap. This one was pretty expensive, but this is what, here, let me show you. I just dropped my headphones. Did you hear that? All right, so here's what this monitor looks like. This current one. That's your boy. And it's pretty nice. It's expensive. It's like espresso. It's like an espresso monitor, something or other. But it's pretty cool. It's like a touch screen and all that, but it works. It works great. So I have 2 screens. So that's that one. And then I have my laptop right here. And then I got the microphone on this is what this looks like. And that's the setup, basically. It's a laptop, an external monitor, and the camera this time is much better. Have you noticed the camera is much better this time? So I actually figured that out. The other camera we had a lot of the autofocus problems. Back and forth, autofocus, autofocus, autofocus. But I think this has been much better. And the location ain't bad either. What's going on? Oh my gosh, we have a new baby. We have a real new baby in the house. Look at this one. Check this out, my friends. Okay, so we've got Larry says, love being here with you, Rob, and all of these smart people. And then we had a new baby announcement, and look at this new baby announcement. Oh my gosh, look at this little baby in the house. Look at this baby. Happy Saturday morning to this beautiful little girl. Oh, Saturday morning, this beautiful little girl made grandbaby number 10. Woo! Look at this baby. Alexis Renee, born at 5:34 in the morning and was 7 pounds, 1 ounces, and 20 inches. Welcome to the new world, Alexis Renee. Beautiful name, beautiful young girl, 5:34 in the morning, 7 pounds, 20 inches. Congratulations, Husky Mom. Grandmama in the house, number 10. Whew. Man, babies are really tiny and kind of scary sometimes, but congratulations. That's amazing. All right, what's up? A real baby in the house. Okay, so my friends, we are going to go over some good comments. Yeah, good comments in the house. So, my friends, we're going to go over to Locals. We're going to hang out on Locals for a little bit. Come join us, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. If you want to hang out for our members only after party, we're going to debrief for a little bit on this lovely day. Let's see. Do we have any comments on X? We have a couple comments. It says, turn your mic on. Thanks for the comment. Yeah, it's a good one. It's true. It's a really good one. We have Essential Bite says, can I move my membership away from YouTube? Yeah, you can move it over to Locals. Just watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Thank you for that, Essential Bites. Summers Walkabout says, blessings, Rob. Thank you for what you do. Thank you, Summers Walkabout. Very nice of you. Blessings back to you, my friend. And it has been just a beautiful day and an amazing Monday. We are going to be back in the Valley tomorrow. So tomorrow we'll be back in the regular digs for a regular live stream at the regular time, regular location, all the things. And so we'll be back tomorrow, 3 p.m. Arizona time, 6 p.m. East Coast time for Watching the Watchers again. And so we're excited to get in there and come on back tomorrow. Hey, we had some new comments. What's up? Isa Al-Ghazi says, I wonder how much Robert earned by telling people he was muted. You like that, huh? Yeah, let's see if it works again, huh? Let's try. Just trying to, raise some extra funds. All right. Thank you, Isa Al-Ghazi. Thank you, Isa. I'm flush, baby. My technical incompetence is a real income generator. What's up? One old guy's opinion says 28 U.S. Code, Section 543, oaths of justices and judges. Yeah, and so it's different than what the president takes, right? The president's different even than other officials. Like the president has a unique oath. Other officials don't. Judges are different. What's up? We got this one from Clowns in Hollow Weird. Says, I think that if Trump is actually thrown in jail, I think it ends Kamala's campaign. What are your thoughts on it? Do you think it's going to be a rallying point for MAGA? I think it'd be a rallying point for way beyond MAGA. I think many people around the country would go, wait a minute. What? Like, this is where we're at right now. Only the most bloodthirsty want Trump imprisoned. The rest of I think even moderates and independents would go, wait. What? Because everybody starts to realize that is the new game now, right? Now we start imprisoning the other side. So I think it's too much for them to bite off, to be honest, but who knows? We got this one from, I hope I'm right. One old guy's opinion says New York Public Officers Law, Section 10 with the citations on there. Thanks, one old guys. And Emil says, welcome, baby. Welcome to the new planet. It's great to have you here. And we're glad to have All new babies in the house, especially the real ones. What's going on? Okay, so we're going to leave it there. We're going to go on over to locals. Come and join us, watchingthewatchers.locals.com, our members-only community. We have some amazing people there. We have a lot of fun. We do members streams, and it's a great place to be. So come check it out, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. Before we wrap it up, I, of course, want to thank the mods and the meme smiths who have modded the fort down for us. I think, where are we at? Who do we see in the house? I think we saw K-Bean. What's up? K-Bean is in the house. I think we saw Zulu up there somewhere modding the fort down for us. Definitely see K-Bean in there. We normally got Carrie B, Donut. We got the best mods in the house. And my friends, we're grateful for all of our amazing mods and our meme smiths who help keep the show nice and orderly. But we are going to leave it there, my friends. We'll be back here tomorrow at the regular time, regular location to get into it all again. And in order to do that, we're going to need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. I'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye. And we are out. Happy Labor Day, my friends. Make it a great day, a great, beautiful Monday. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.